What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the new auto rifle from our Crucible competitive, the Riposte. This is an auto rifle which has void burn, also a light frame, so it is very quick shooting at 720 RPMs. Feels almost like an SMG to me, but feels like it has the range of an auto rifle to a point. So we're going to get into both PvE, PvP for y'all. I have been loving the roll that I had on it, but we got some even better ones to cover for y'all. Now, usually when we talk about these weapons, we go over their origin traits, but this bad boy has 3 to 4 different stocks that you can grab on it instead of an origin trait, which is kind of interesting to me just because origin traits usually add quite a bit to a weapon, especially in one of the realms, PvP, PvE. Usually there's not one that's too good for both, except for maybe indomitability on some of those brave weapons, but we got these 4 stocks that you can grab, with the first option, in my opinion, being the best for the PvE realm, with composite stock right here. Gives us stability and handling, kind of just the overall best in my opinion. If you're going into the Crucible, you might want a little bit more handling, so we'll cover that one as well. But for the PvE realm, I would go with composite stock as the stock you're using for that nice realm. Now when we move on to barrels in the PvE realm, I am personally going to go with a small bore for this thing, having stability as our masterwork, because at that 720 RPM it does have a little bit more bounce than normal, with the recoil direction being at 66 innately, just normally, so you do kind of got to play around with that, especially if you're on controller or having trouble on your mouse and key picking up on that flinch, if you will, or the bounce of the weapon. Build this out a little bit more heavy into the stability range. For our barrels right here, I would go with appended mag for sure. Gives us +6 in our magazine for this auto rifle. Just feels the best in the PvE realm. You could go with something like armor piercing or high cal rounds if you want a little bit more stunning potential of this light frame auto rifle, but I personally like having this with something like backup mag as our mod on to have a good amount of bullets inside of the magazine, pushing up to that 68, almost 70 range in this thing without having like an overflow perk or something like that. Now when we move on to our 3rd and 4th column, we're going to go with a couple different choices in each of these. First off, we have Repulsor Brace. Defeating those void debuff targets grants us overshield. Gameplay you could see, and right now I guess it is in the background, that inside of this Gear Falcon Hunter that we have with that exotic class item. It is absolutely disgusting, getting volatility, going invisible, vice versa. So Repulsor Brace on this would be a very good void synergy, especially with getting that overshield. Second on the list in the 3rd column is Zen Moment, also a very good PvP perk, but causing damage with this weapon reduces that recoil and flinch. Like I said, with this being a light frame auto rifle at that 720 RPMs, it does have a good amount of bounce to it, especially with recoil being at 66. So Zen Moment does definitely help with that, especially since we have almost 70 bullets in the magazine. Once Zen Moment gets fully going, it does feel like an absolute laser beam in both PvP as well as PvE. Now again, 4th column, another void synergy perk. Destabilizing rounds. Final blows cause those targets to become volatile, so the combination with this and Repulsor Brace has a beautiful synergy on it, giving us overshield, giving us more volatility, and just rinse and repeat, if you will. Very good for something like a Gear Falcons build if you want, or anything with having that void overshield, giving us a little bit more juice for staying alive. Desperate Measures is a very good option as well in this 4th column. Was what I had on my roll, but once we get those final defeats, we gain a bonus damage. Melee and grenade final blows grant a larger bonus damage to this stack, so when you're using something like a prismatic subclass, I feel like I am absolutely using those abilities way more than just normal subclasses. So Desperate Measure was getting that stacks very, very easily, getting that nice 30% or ×3 in Desperate Measures almost instantly, I felt like. So this thing was dapping up those enemies inside of the PvE realm, especially like I said, when I had Desperate Measures proc with my Gear Falcons and that volatility, I was just wiping out enemies left and right. So that is what I would personally go for this role. I like the combination of something like even Dynamic Sway with this Desperate Measures. Might be my god roll 5 out of 5 5 for the PvE realm, but I really do like Repulsor Brace, especially if you're using it on something like a Gear Falcons build, because innately on that invisibility, you're getting that nice void volatility to give yourself Repulsor Brace to proc for that overshield. Last but not least, for the PvE realm, we do have Encore, so Final Blows grant stacking stability, range, and accuracy. Like I said, stability on this is pretty important. Precision Final Blows grant higher stacks, so you can see the community research down below what each of those stacks does, but in general, this is more of a counter, if you will, for if you are having trouble with that bounce and stability. I would throw on Encore as a backup, but like I said, would definitely go with Desperate Measures as your number one in this fourth column. So overall, for the PvE realm, we do have some very good auto rifles just in general. I personally really do like this one, more almost for the PvP realm, so I'm going to give it about a 4-1, 4-2 in the PvE side, but this thing does slap pretty hard, especially in those synergetic builds with the void, volatility, invisibility, stuff like that. Alright, so when we talk about the PvP side of things, like I said, this feels like an SMG, so it has a very fast TTK, plus it has the little bit of extra range that auto rifles do, so I was absolutely loving this thing. Built it out for stability, so that's what I had as its masterwork, plus I had hand-laid stock as the stock option. Like I said, we don't have origin trait on this thing, which is really weird to me, but we're going to give us plus 10 stability because of this hand-laid stock, bringing us up to 82 in stability and about 50 in range, so it felt like the highest in both categories that I could go without wasting some of those extra little stats, like having 88 in stability doesn't really make too much of a difference between that and 82. So because of that, like I said, I went with Hammer Forged as my barrel to give me that highest range that I could get at that 50. Like I said, if you want to go with small bore here, it basically just cranks your stability up to 88, brings your range down a little bit to 46. So I don't really see the difference in it, but Hammer Forged gives us that little extra range, is what we're really looking for to push this thing to that 50 and get it inside of a new bin. Now, Ricochet, definitely a go-to in PvP. You can hit off those walls, of course, get those extra little bit of damage ticks, plus we get 5 range, 10 stability on this, so just rounds us out for those stats that I was talking about, 50 in that range and about 82 in stability. Now, when it comes to the third column, we're going to have a couple options in here, because I do feel like the third column is absolutely juiced, as well as the fourth column for this weapon. We got 2 Pain. Well, this weapon is equipped, taking damage increases handling, aim assist until it is stowed, taking further damage increases the effect, so this is definitely a PvP perk. Also, could use it in PvP, I guess, if you would like, but handling aim assist is definitely more in the PvP realm, in my head at least, so I went with this as one of our options. It does feel pretty good, in my opinion, inside of the Crucible. Another option for y'all is causing that damage with the weapon, reduces recoil and flinch over time in that Zen moment, just like we had in PvE. Feels very crispy inside of the Crucible. I think that this is my number one choice for the third column. This with target lock, I think, would be my go-to, but it is feeling super crispy when we're getting that damage and consistently getting it. The flinch of this 720 and that 66 in recoil direction does add up, and you do feel it a little bit, but I still feel like this thing is a absolute laser beam. Last but not least, we got Top the Trigger. Grant a short period of increased stability and accuracy on that initial trigger pull. We get for about 0.6 seconds that 40 in stability, and then the minus to the accuracy cone and recoil, so that helps us up, of course, which is feeling very good for that bounce. Like I said, this thing at 720 absolutely rips up and down, so you got to be careful about that. Tap the Trigger can definitely help you out inside of that range, but I again like Zen Moment as my number one choice for this column. Now we're getting on to the fourth column, the goats right here. Target lock absolutely turns this thing into a menace. Of course, it did get its little bit of nerf, target lock, I should say, in general, but it still feels super crispy, especially when you are just lasering those kids. Zen Moment got that stability, everything working to your advantage. You are just beaming kids and absolutely taking them out. So I think target lock is the number one choice, but we do have other ones, of course, which can help you out as well. If you guys are really having trouble with that bounce, go with Zen Moment mixed with dynamic sway right here. Improves that accuracy and stability while continuously actually holding down the trigger. So as long as you're doing damage with Zen Moment plus Dynamic Sway, this thing is literally not going to bounce, it feels like. But I personally don't like that roll just because you're not getting any damage additions like you would on a Desperate Measure or Target Lock. So totally for the stability side of things, if you're having trouble controlling it, could go with that Dynamic Sway in this, but totally think that you should go with Target Lock as your number 1 and then our next option as number 2. Last option for me, I do really like Kill Clip on this. Reloading after a kill grants us that nice 25% damage for 5 seconds, so it is absolutely dapping people up no matter if it's 3s or 6s. Very good option. Desperate Measure is almost a similar thing. You don't have to reload, but you're only getting 10% damage, so not as good as Kill Clip, but you do got to reload for a Kill Clip, so kind of a personal preference if you want this or Desperate Measures. But I still think Target Lock is your number 1 choice with Zen Moment, so this thing absolutely daps up. I would give it like a 4.6, 4.7 in the Crucible. I might be a little bit biased. I told you I love this thing. It has that SMG feel for it with the crispiness and TTK, but it has that little bit of extra range that auto rifles do, so it is in a little special spot for me. I would almost put it at like an A- tier, maybe a full A, not an S tier in my opinion. Something like Summoner that absolutely destroys, but it is very close. So y'all get to grind it out that comp. Get yourself the Riposte right here. A very, very good Void Auto Rifle for y'all. Hopefully y'all have liked the videos. Got a lot more coming out here for y'all. Happy 4th of July week. If y'all are celebrating, I will be out of town, so no streams or anything like that, but we do got some videos scheduled for y'all, so be on the lookout for all of those. Make sure to hit that bell and subscribe if you haven't. Helps out the channel, helps out me as well. Plus y'all will get those notifications so you don't miss out on any of these builds, god rolls, anything like that. But again, appreciate all you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.